social welfare organizations, non-governmental organizations, or governmental organizations undertake many social welfare programs and provide services to individuals, groups, and communities. While they provide the services, they are constantly concerned about the outcome of their services. Time to time, many questions haunt them, such as: do they achieve their goals while providing services? Are the services effective? Are these programs leading to undesirable consequences? Are the services relevant? And many such questions puzzle administrators of social welfare organizations. As such, they need some reliable, valid data which can give answers to these questions. Moreover, these programs or services are funded by various funding organizations. It could be a government agency or it could be non-governmental, national or international funding organizations. Whoever may be the funding organizations, they insist on some reliable, evident evaluation to know if the funds are being effectively utilized in general and whether the intended goals are being achieved. The term used for the process of assessment of social welfare programs or services is known as evaluation. This lesson delves into the concept, needs, and objectives of evaluation of social welfare programs or services. Objectives. On completion of this lesson, you would know about the concept and meaning of the term evaluation of social welfare programs or services. The objectives of the evaluation of social welfare programs or services and the need of evaluation of social welfare programs or services. Concept of evaluation of social welfare programs or services. In a very broad sense, evaluation of social welfare programs or services is a systematic assessment of progress made by the social welfare organizations, an analysis of problems and difficulties arising in the effective implementation of program or services, and an indication of the corrective measures necessary. The attempt to conceptualize evaluation of social welfare programs or services indicates a concern both with information on the outcomes of programs and judgments regarding the desirability or value of programs. Different definitions emphasize different aspects, that is, information seeking, effectiveness of procedures, achievement of goals, and efficiency. The concept of evaluation of social welfare programs or services simply connotes use of scientific methods and techniques to evaluate programs or services and determine how effectively they are achieving their goals. The terms like program evaluation, assessment, review, appraisal are synonymous, interrelated, and hence used interchangeably in this lesson. All the programs or services undertaken by social welfare organizations are to be evaluated for the results or outcome they have achieved or failed to achieve. Evaluation of social welfare programs or services provides objective assessment of the performance. It is indispensable as it provides the social welfare organizations in general and the social welfare administrator the evidences of effective use of resources and of accountability for their use. Review or evaluation of social welfare programs or services is now considered as an integral part of social welfare or voluntary welfare organizations. Today, Evaluation of social welfare programs or services is recognized as an important process to improve the working of voluntary social welfare organizations. Its chief function is to determine as systematically and objectively as possible the relevant effectiveness and impact of social welfare programs or services. Evaluation or assessment of social welfare programs or services is an indispensable action oriented tool in the social welfare organizational process for improving both activities or programs or services still in progress and future planning, programming and decision making. In other words, it is a process which covers aspects relating to the accessibility, availability and quality of the services and their utilization, their relevance or appropriateness to local needs and expectations, viability of the consequences or impact of the program. That means evaluation of social welfare programs or services is a process of determining the value or amount of success in achieving a predetermined objective. It includes at least the following steps: formulation of the objective, identification of proper criteria to be used in measuring success, determination and explanation of the degree of success and recommendations for further program activity. However, the terms program evaluation, assessment, review, appraisal have been explained with different connotations. The term evaluation of social welfare programs or services is a generic term which includes the process of assessment or review or appraisal. It may or may not use method and techniques of research. For example, a report of a study team or review committee is considered as evaluation of program. Evaluation is a function of social welfare administration and implies the use of scientific process with a view to measure the impact or contribution of the social welfare programs or services towards the changes brought in relation to the social conditions. Many a times, program evaluation uses experimental question and uses experimental research designs to study the contribution of the programs or services. To a great extent, evaluation of social welfare programs or services is a systematic assessment of the role and progress of the social welfare organizations and its implementing machinery. It is also analysis of problems and difficulties arising in the effective implementation of programs and an indication of the corrective measures necessary for achieving the intended goals. On the other hand, evaluation of administration means appraisal or judgment of the worth and effectiveness of all the processes designed to ensure achievement of the organizational goals. It is essentially the study and review of post-implementation experience. Thus, it implies critical analysis of the quality of the relationships which have been developed between all groups. It conveys willingness to measure results and to make changes in both goals and methods as a result of concrete evidence. Hence, evaluation of programs or services becomes a resource for the continuous strengthening of all the individuals and groups in the administration of the social welfare organization. Nowadays, evaluation of programs or services is considered as an integral part of social welfare organizations. It is recognized as an important process to improve the working of social welfare organizations. Its chief function is to determine as systematically and objectively as possible the relevance, effectiveness and impact of activities in the light of their objectives. A chief functionary or a program director of social welfare organization, after completing an income generation or skill training program for women in a slum, evaluates whether the program was effective. This is an example of evaluation. However, one may raise a question here. How was the effectiveness evaluated? If the program director has evaluated the effectiveness by discussing with the trainees or by his impressions without applying any scientific method, we call it informal evaluation. Such evaluation may be objective and accurate, but the chances are only fair that they will be. Whereas, when a social welfare administrator tries to know to what extent a film on birth control devices is more or less effective than group discussions in increasing knowledge of birth control by dividing his beneficiaries into two groups and studying them through a questionnaire, it can be called as scientific evaluation or evaluation research. Purpose of program evaluation. The main purpose of program evaluation is to assess the utility of social work interventions and human service programs. Towards that end, program evaluation uses research methods and techniques to plan social work intervention programs, monitor the implementation of programs, and to determine how effectively programs achieve their goals. The goal of program or service evaluation. The goal of evaluation of programs or services is to contribute to the effective planning, formulation, and implementation of social welfare programs and services. At a minimum, evaluation should offer an objective assessment of programs or services. Ideally, it should contribute to knowledge for the field at large, that is, it should contribute to achieve its intended goals. Need of program evaluation. Although social welfare organizations have increased in number, there have been very few systematic program evaluation reports of their effectiveness. To contribute effectively to sustainable human development, NGOs as well as donor or funding agencies have to recognize the significance of evaluation of social welfare programs and services. Thus, evaluation of social welfare programs and services can play multifarious roles to make programs or services more effective. Need of evaluation of social welfare programs and services at different stages of program planning, implementation, and outcome can be classified into three categories, that is A. Evaluation of program formulation, B. Evaluation for monitoring of programs and services, and C. Evaluation for program outcome. Evaluation for program formulation. In order to formulate a program, social welfare administrators may assess problems and needs of a target population. They assess the extent and location of the problems, the program as well as the target population's characteristics, problems, express needs and desires. This information is then used to guide program formulation concerning such issues as the type of services to offer, how to maximize service utilization by targeted subgroups, where to locate services, and so on. In the first stage of program formulation, need assessment or evaluation is undertaken to facilitate social welfare administrators to select right program or services to be implemented, the services likely to be rendered, the scope in which the program or services will operate, etc. The evaluation in this stage is commonly known as need assessment or baseline study or feasibility study. Information generated through need assessment or baseline study or feasibility study helps social welfare administrators to justify program or services and its feasibility and potential. It also provides baseline data which are compared with evaluation or impact data at the end of program or services, and outcome or impact of the program or services is assessed. Evaluation for monitoring of programs and services. Some programs or services have unsuccessful outcomes simply because they were not monitored properly. In that case, no matter how well an outcome evaluation is designed, if it is not supplemented by an evaluation of program or services monitoring, it risks not being able to identify or misinterpreting the meaning of negative results. In turn, no matter how highly we value outcome studies, there is a clear need for the evaluation of program or services monitoring. Though appropriate monitoring system depends on the nature of programs or services, checklists or questionnaires or scales may be used to assess staff, beneficiaries or community attitudes that affect program or services implementation. Participant observation might be used to assess how staff relates to beneficiaries or to one another. Available records might be analyzed to assess whether the attributes of beneficiaries beings served match program priorities. Evaluation for program outcome. Evaluation of program outcome and efficiency may assess whether the program or service has effectively attained its goals, whether it has any unintended harmful effects, whether its success, if any, has been achieved at reasonable cost, and how the ratio of its benefits to its cost compares with other programs having similar objectives. A program or service is designed to produce significant outputs or results of social development or social change or social transformation. Therefore, it is utmost important to evaluate the outcome of programs or services. Based on the evaluation results, changes or modifications can be brought in program or service planning, formulation and implementation. Use of program evaluation. The important uses of program or service evaluation are as follows. 1. To determine the effectiveness of the program or service. 2. To answer whether the program or service is relevant in the light of the objectives. 3. To assess whether the program or service is effective. 4. To assess the effect of alternative or innovative program or service. 5. To enhance the quality of programs or services. 6. To determine whether a program or service has consequences that are either desirable or undesirable. 7. To justify and define the program or service in cost-effective terms for funding organizations. Program or service evaluation. The present approach social welfare organizations' performance and outcome need to be examined from the perspective of its effectiveness. So far, systematic evaluation of performance and the net outcome of social welfare organizations have not been given proper attention either by the social welfare organizations themselves or by the funding organizations. Most of the social welfare organizations do not undertake systematic program or service evaluation to assess their performance or outcome. Instead, they present individual success stories to justify their performance, and while assessing the outcome, they present data without giving reference to the baseline. The donor or funding agencies, on the other hand, largely depend on annual progress reports, which are again success stories. They do send evaluators or experts team for assessment of the performance and outcome of the social welfare organizations' programs or services. The assessment of social welfare organizations by the team are by and large based again on annual reports submitted by the social welfare organizations and on partial evidences collected during their field visits. Hence, it is difficult to judge how effective social welfare organizations' performance and their outcome are. Donor or funding agencies and social welfare organizations have to realize that program or service evaluation is an integral part of the project or programs. They have to establish a system of evaluation. Donor or funding agencies that have been able to respond sensitively and flexibly to the success stories may have to think whether funding of projects which are not systematically evaluated is justifiable. Criteria for measuring success program or service evaluation in most cases is taken up for funding of the organization. This leads to the choice of dependent variables as a criterion for evaluating a program make evaluation task more difficult. In whose interest is the evaluation? It is not sufficient to say in the interest of social welfare organizations because the outcome will affect the beneficiaries more than social welfare organizations in the criteria chosen for success. The evaluation may affect some people's jobs, education or health, and the results may be in the interest of some and perhaps to the detriment of others. For instance, in the midday meals program for primary school children, the primary criterion, that is dependent variable, for evaluating the effect of the program was whether or not there was a decline in school drop rate. The people and social welfare organizations that implemented and evaluated the dropout rate were concerned that the children who received midday meals do not stop attending school as a result. They judged the program's success on the basis of the number of children attending the school. The same programs could have been evaluated on a number of other criteria: the health of the children and their increased enjoyment of leisure time activities, their self-esteem, their participation in school activities, or their satisfaction with school life. These other criteria were either ignored or de-emphasized. Dropout rate is a relevant criterion as nonetheless the other criteria could also have been used to judge the program's success or failure. The scientific selection of dependent variables becomes a question of politics in evaluation. Whose criteria will prevail? It is not always clear that one set of criteria is better than another. All evaluation must address the question of whose values, whose criteria for success or failure will prevail in judging the outcome of a program. Different parties or participants in the program or service have different perspectives and different goals. Summary: for evaluation research to have a meaningful function, it must be designed keeping in view the purpose of evaluation. Though all the methods of evaluation research are useful for evaluation of project or program, it needs modifications or adoption when applied to a project or program so that the assessments become relevant, reliable and valid. Although it would seem that project executors welcome evaluation of their projects, however, there appears to be some kind of subtle reaction and resistance against the use of systematic evaluation.